We're live? Okay. Hey, everyone. How many people do we have on, Sarah, so far? Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. We're just going to wait a few minutes while everyone starts logging on, and we'll start our class. Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, you know what? Let me turn on the lights. I just realized they're not all on in my kitchen. Okay. I think once we hit 20 people, we should start making cocktails. That's just my opinion. So thank you, everyone, for joining us on a Sunday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are. Today is our adult Thanksgiving prep. We are going to be making a Thanksgiving cocktail. We're going to be making biscuits, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and then our entree is going to be roasted portobellos with a sherry gravy over cauliflower steak. And then for dessert, we're having mini pumpkin no-bake cheesecake. So you should have the recipes hopefully printed out, and hopefully you are prepped if you plan on cooking along with me. We never know kind of what to do here, if we're better off chopping and prepping with you, but then the class will run probably 4 hours instead of 2, and then it's a little too overwhelming to watch back. So we're right down the middle of having it prepped and going live. So hopefully the class will only take about 2 hours, but it all depends on how quickly I move and how quickly and how organized I am, which usually is not very. All right. We're on 23, so we can make our cocktail. For those of you who are late, you're going to be sad. So for our cocktail today, I thought we would kind of use some of the flavors that we have in our cooking. So we're going to have some cranberry juice, some orange juice, a little bit of ginger, a ginger ale, and vodka for those of you who are over 21. For the teens who are joining us, no vodka allowed. So what we're just going to do is pour some vodka into a cup, a glass. Okay. And we are going to add some cranberry juice. Shake it up a little bit. And just so you know, I put myself through grad school by bartending. So I have a master's in mixology, in case you wanted to know. Orange juice. And put that away. I'm going to put a lid on this and give it a shake. I've got my glass full of ice. So in here is the vodka, cranberry, and orange juice. I'm going to pour some of that into my cup, my glass, save some for later. And I'm going to add a splash of ginger ale. And I don't like things too sweet, so I'm just going to add seltzer for the remaining fizz. But you could add all ginger ale if you wanted. Okay. And cheers. Oh, that tastes nice. Okay. So, As we're waiting for more people to join us, does anybody have any questions? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to ask everyone to do is to preheat your oven to 225 degrees for our stuffing bread. And while that is happening, we are going to start marinating our mushrooms. I put a message on Facebook encouraging people to kind of do the marinade in advance, because the longer you let these sit in the marinade, the more flavorful they're going to be. So we're going to be a little push for time. I normally like to have them at least 3 hours and up to 8. But today we're going to cut it short if you haven't done it already. So here's the portobello mushroom. What I want to do is pop out that stem, and that's usually just with your finger. You just kind of go like that, and it comes right out. This here is the gill of the mushroom. I don't like it. I think it muddies flavors, so I always remove it. So I just take a spoon and just go through and just peel it right out. See how it's just coming right out? Just a little scoop. Scoop, and let me switch angles so you can see it a little bit better here. So we're scooping it out, and this is just my discard bowl, which is always handy to have. Okay, and that is most of the gill gone. And then here we go again. We're popping that out. So what we're making today, because we have this over a portobello steak, it's going to serve 4. Because you'll only need half a mushroom. Let's get it out. And I find the best way to clean a mushroom is just to take a damp paper towel and just wipe it. And that gets the dirt off of it without it absorbing too much liquid, because we want it absorbing the flavors that we're putting into it and not just water from washing. Okay. And those are the portobellos. Let me get my drink out of the way, because you know I'm going to knock it into something. And to marinate the portobellos, we're just putting them in a Ziploc bag. We're adding 2 cloves of garlic. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Some salt and pepper. And some minced fresh rosemary. I'm going to put that in there. We're going to seal it. And we're going to kind of rub it so we're getting those flavors everywhere. Massaging the mushroom a little bit. Getting that garlic on both of them. And then we're just going to set this aside, and this is going to be the last savory dish that we make. So we're just going to put that to the side and let it marinate. Okay. Next up, what we're going to try to do is we're going to be doing some prep across the recipes, and then we'll try to do recipes from start to finish as best we can. So next up, we need to toast our breadcrumbs, or bread rather. So I have here Cook for Love. I actually make a bread at Thanksgiving. I only make it once a year. It's stuffing bread. The recipe is on the website, and it is pretty much Cook for Love's basic sandwich bread, but instead of potato flakes, we use fresh potatoes, and instead of rice milk, we add the potato water, which makes it super, super soft, and vegetable broth. And I've added some herbs in here and some onions and some celery. So again, it's just all the flavors that you have in stuffing, just so that the flavor is more intense. So we've got our thing here. Let me just switch camera angles so you can see what I'm doing. So this is a slice of bread. You can easily just cube this with a knife, but I prefer to tear it apart and kind of get irregular craggly ends, because when you bake it, those craggly ends tend to get a little bit more crisp, and it just is tastier, in my opinion. So we're just tearing that apart. And I do 2 slices of bread per low protein serving. When I make the stuffing, I do a full batch of it, and I put a quarter of the onions and apples and vegetable broth into a high protein stuffing, and then I do a part of it into a quarter of it into the low protein stuffing. So that way I'm just baking one thing. I would be very, very happy eating low protein stuffing, but my daughter does not want to share. And like I said, I make this only once a year, so she wants all of it, which is fair. So, that's away. And I'm going to put the stuffing, single layer, onto a baking sheet. And we just kind of want to dry that out. So it's going to go in a low oven, 225 degrees, for about 40 minutes. And my glass is just steamed up. Okay, Alexa, set timer for 40 minutes. I apologize. I know I'm setting everyone's Alexa. Everyone who's listening. Okay, so we've marinated our mushrooms. We're toasting our stuffing bread. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to simmer our craisins. So when you get craisins at the store, let me switch angles. They tend to be kind of dry, unless you get them super, super fresh. And what I like to do is add some apple cider to them, and then put them on the stove and simmer them just for a few minutes, so that they get nice and plump and they have a really nice flavor then. So, over to the stove. And I'm going to put that on the low heat and hopefully remember it's there before I burn it. We'll see. So that's going. And Alexa, set timer for 5 minutes.
Second timer, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Starting now.
Does anybody have any questions yet? Okay. Someone asked what kind of ginger ale do I prefer. I really like this Trader Joe's ginger brew. It's a lot more of a ginger kick than your typical Seagram's or whatever ginger ale you'd get in the grocery store. So that's the one that I like. Okay. So next up, we're going to make our cranberry sauce. Now, that is going to be, hang on, we want a little bit of orange zest. So this is a zester. If you don't have one of these, you probably have it on your cheese grater. There's probably a small, narrow top. Let me just show you. Hang on. So if you look here, you can see it's very, very narrow. So what you want to do is just get a little bit of that zest from that orange, because there's a tremendous amount of flavor in there. And whenever you're zesting anything, you do not want the white. If you get the white, that's called the pith, and that is super, super bitter. So we just want a little bit of orange zest. And you could then squeeze this orange and use that for your orange juice, but I know I'll use the orange in something else later. So I'm not going to do that. Okay, there's my orange zest. Stick it in a bowl. And we're going to go back over here. So we have our orange zest done. And then we need some sugar and some orange juice. Move this. Hang on. Okay. I just put the craisins on the back burner. So in here, we are going to add our orange juice. Okay, we're going to add our sugar. Our orange zest. Okay. And hang on 1 second, and our cranberries that I have washed going in there. And even when something is sweet, it needs a little bit of salt. And when something is savory, it usually needs a tiny bit of sugar, just to balance out flavors. So this is going to go on here, and we're going to kind of bring it to a boil. And then once it gets to a boil, we're going to reduce it and let it thicken. So what's going to happen is the cranberries are going to start bursting open. And here's a little trick for you. You can take some of this cranberry sauce when it's done and add maybe a half a cup of orange juice to part of it. And you can then put it in the blender and then put it over a strainer to get out all the seeds and the pulp, so you just get the liquid. And then what you have there, add a little bit of white wine vinegar, and you have something called a cranberry shrub, which is delicious for a cocktail. But I didn't do that today because I couldn't wait that long to have a cocktail, because I don't really like doing these classes. Because I don't like being on camera. So, all right, so that is on. Okay, and that's going to take a few minutes. All right. Here are our cranberries. You see how they're getting nice and plump? I'll let them go for another minute. Okay. And we've got our cranberry sauce going. And now we can start working on our stuffing. So, first thing we're going to do for the stuffing, that I didn't do yet, because I knew they would get brown, is I'm just going to peel an apple. Okay. Dice it. Alexa, timer off. That's the timer for my cranberries. My craisins that are simmering in the back. Okay. And we're just going to get a nice slice on these. Apples. And now we are going to take a look at our cranberries. Switch back over to that angle. Okay, so it has not come to a boil yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it over. And we are going to start our stuffing. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And our minced onion. Our minced celery. And our shallots. If you don't have shallots, it's okay. You can just use a little bit extra onion, but the shallot kind of has a mild garlicky and a milder onion flavor it's really, really nice in this recipe. Now, if you don't like apples in your stuffing, you don't need to add them. I just really like that flavor. So we're going to simmer this for a few minutes. I'm going to show you this. See how that's starting to boil? Well, they haven't burst open yet, so they need a little bit longer. And we continue with our stuffing. Now this stuffing you could easily turn into an entree if you just took like an acorn squash and you roasted it, and the bowl where the pits are that forms, you could just put the stuffing right in that and have that as your main meal if you wanted. oil a little bit. And what you're looking for here is for the onions to start to get a little bit translucent. It's smelling so good. How many of you are cooking along with me, or versus just watching it and planning on cooking later? Yeah, that will help guide us for other cooking classes to know whether or not we need to slow down or speed up. Because if you're watching a video, I imagine you'd rather it quicker, but if you're cooking with me, you'd probably rather it go slower. So you let us know what you're doing, and we'll accommodate as best we can. Okay? So you can see that's starting to get a little bit dry. So I'm going to add a little bit of the vegetable broth. And I'm going to wait till that gets reduced. So right now I'm hearing some popping from my cranberries, so I'm going to just bring those over so you can look at them. So you see how some of them are breaking open, but they're not all going, so they still need more time. What I'm doing here is just waiting for about half of the liquid to be evaporated. And then I'm going to add the apples in and get them nice and soft. The other thing I'd like you guys to think about is, I've adapted kind of all of our family tradition recipes. If there's something that you have at your table that you wish you could make a low protein version of, feel free to post. And I will do my best to accommodate. It will not be on the site this year, of course, but we can try for next year. Okay. Now we are going to add our apples, which are over here. Apple chunks, and then I'm going to add sage. Our cranberries are really bubbling now, but they are still not all broken. So I'm going to turn it down and let it go for another few minutes. Raisins in. You see how nice and plump they got? Add the rest of the vegetable broth. And I'll be honest with you, I cheated because I knew that we wouldn't have all the time based on the class yesterday. I toasted some breadcrumbs already, or the stuffing bread. So I'm just going to add mine here, and this is what you'll do when yours comes out. Add some parsley. And some salt, some pepper. Mix that a little bit. And the bread will soften a little bit with the vegetable broth. And you can then take this, once it's softened, and you can put it in a Ziploc bag and have it in the freezer, ready to go. The day before Thanksgiving, defrost it. And you can do one of two things. You can just put it all in a buttered dish and bake it for about a half hour with a pat of butter on top. Or you can put put it in muffin pans. And grease the muffin pans with loads of butter. And then you can make little muffin cups. And that way it's easier to portion out if you're trying to have a sense of how much protein or feed you're having that day. If you don't have any bread on hand, because this bread does not need to be cooked for Lux bread, it can be any low-protein bread. Carbonate makes a very, very nice bread that's very low in protein. You can use gluten-free bread as well, or you can use Cambrooks, whatever it is that you have in your house. If you don't have bread and you don't feel like making it, Amber made a very, very nice cauliflower stuffing that you can use that as well. That is also on this website. And that is the stuffing done. So it's still the stuffing is still a little bit hard, but that's okay. It's going to soften up as it sits in the liquid. And then I'm just going to transfer that to a Ziploc bag, and I'm going to be so happy when it is ready for me before Thanksgiving. When the chaos begins, I'll be somewhat prepped. So that is the stuffing complete. Move that out of the way. Does anybody have any questions on that? Or does anybody have any other stuffing recipes that's tradition that they tend to have in their family that they want to talk about and see if we can figure out, problem solve how to make? Okay. 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 So, this is looking good. See how most of these are broken up? I am going to give it one more minute, and then our cranberry sauce is done. Cranberry sauce is an absolute favorite in our family. I make 2 huge mason jars full of it, and everybody wants some as leftovers when they're going home. I've also taken some of the cranberry sauce before and made a galette with butternut squash and the cranberry sauce on the bottom, and it is delicious. And I will have to get that recipe up before Thanksgiving because that's one of our favorite dishes now for the holidays. Okay, there we go. That looks really, really good. So it's getting kind of thick, but there's still chunks of cranberries in there. And I'm going to turn that off. All right. So look at that. We've done 2 of our 5 dishes. Pretty impressive. You guys are doing great. Take a drink is right. Okay. Next up, we are going to make biscuits. For the biscuits, you can do one of 2 things. You can make a batch of biscuits. You can add all of the liquid that it says in the recipe, and you can roll them out, and you can form them, and then you can put them on a baking sheet and freeze them, and then just pop them in the oven when you need them. I have found that when I do that, even after like a month or so, the biscuits don't always rise as well. So what I started doing, because biscuits are one of my daughter's favorite things, is I started making a biscuit mix. So I will make the biscuits, and I'll put them in a mason jar, and I'll have them in the fridge or freezer with the butter cut into it, and we'll go through that. And that way, whenever my daughter wants a biscuit, she can just scoop out the mix and add the liquid. And, the liquid, it's about a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you do 60 grams of the mix, it's about 30 grams of liquid. You'll get a feel for it, and you'll know, okay, that needs a little bit more. So that's one thing you can do. The thing that I love about this biscuit mix is you can roll it thin, and you can have it as the top to your pot pies. And if you look at the string bean casserole recipe, the liquids in it and the flavoring in it, the sauce, is very similar to the pot pie recipe. So you could take, if they're already leftovers, you could just add some more vegetables to it and then just roll out a little bit more biscuit and have it on top as your day after Thanksgiving dinner. Just an idea. We also roll out the biscuit dough, and we roll it thinner, and we'll make breakfast pockets with it. So we will bake the low-protein egg mix and add some cheese and some hooray bacon and some vegetables, and then we'll cut it into pieces and then fold it over, and that way it's a quick breakfast. So it's a good way to get a lot of calories in. And my daughter loves biscuits. So when she was little, we used to make little tiny ones, and she would even have them with her lunch. Okay, so for the biscuits, we are going to take, just make sure this is the right angle for you. We are going to take 2 cups of Cook for Love's baking mix. Now this mix is, the recipe's on the site. It is just wheat starch, xanthan gum, and cake flour. And that cake flour just adds a nice body to it. Someone asked whether or not you could use a gluten-free cake flour to lower the fee in, are you talking about in Cook for Love's baking mix in general or for this particular recipe? Okay, so in the baking mix in general, you can add less if you need to lower the fee. If you're dealing with gluten allergies, I would probably try cassava flour in its place, which would lower the fee but would still provide some body to it. And if you want to try that and it doesn't work right, take pictures of your product, like the beginning and the end, so I can kind of help you problem solve. But because we don't really have any gluten issues in our house, we use the cake flour, and it works with my daughter's tolerance. But you can use less, and you could try substituting it with cassava. Okay, so what we're going to do here, this over this way, is cut our butter, which is cold, into chunks. If you don't have a food processor, keep your butter in the freezer and then use a grater and grate your butter right into the dry mix. And that helps it distribute evenly. So into this, we're going to add, this is our Cook for Love baking mix. We're going to add some sugar. Okay, try to get the angle right. We're going to add some baking powder. We're going to add some salt. And we're going to pulse that. Hang on. Nope, we're not going to pulse that. Hang on. Am I not plugged in? Why is that working? Hang on 1 second. Technical difficulties. Bound to happen. Why is that not plugged in? Something happened here. Sorry, everybody. All right. There we go. I'm just going to pulse that to mix it. Then we're going to add the pats of butter. I'm going to break them up as I put them in. Okay. Oh, I turned it off again. Hang on. I think when I pulled at it, I flipped something off. All right. Nope. All of the cameras are plugged in, as is my iPad and the mixer and everything else. So I have I don't know what I did, but somehow I keep knocking it off. A little tip that I'm not doing right now, but you know when you get that poof of wheat starch everywhere when you're using a mixer or a food processor, if you put a damp, clean kitchen towel over it, it contains the starch. So just put that on top. It's not going to come out all over the place. But then you can't see what I'm doing. All right. So now, if you look here, you can see there shouldn't really be huge chunks of butter. It's okay if there's some in there, but you don't want a big chunk. And that's our baking mix done. So this could go right in the freezer. And then every time you wanted to make a biscuit, you'd take out about 50 grams of the mix, and you'd add between 20 and 25 grams of rice milk, or a combination of rice milk and heavy cream, or whatever your favorite non-dairy creamer is. So that is this done for now. And we're going to put it on pause because I know right now everyone has their stuffing in the oven if you're cooking along. So I'm going to give you a few minutes for that to come out, and then we'll heat up the oven and put the biscuits in. So I'm going to put that on pause for a minute, and we're going to put our mix to the side until we're ready for it. Okay? Okay. Our stuffing is done, and let's see, how much more time do we have? Actually, the stuffing is pretty crisp, so I think we're okay. I'm sorry, Sarah, tell me that again. Okay. So someone is saying that they're having, there's an echo with the microphone. So if you're having any problems with sound, please write a comment, because Sarah and Michael are both on this call, and they are helping out for all technical difficulties because I can't read the screen, but Sarah's in my ear telling me whatever's happening. So any questions you have or anything like that, Sarah will relay them to me, and then we can also fix whatever's going wrong. Okay? Is anybody else having problems with the neckline? Nothing so far. Okay, good. All right. So I'm cranking the oven up to 450 for these biscuits. And do a little bit of cleanup. Okay. So, all right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do biscuits for today. I'm not going to do the whole batch, and I'm going to save my mix to do later. So you're welcome to do whatever you prefer. You can either add the half a cup of rice milk and a quarter cup of heavy cream to the entire batch, or you can take out some, 50 grams, and get 20 grams of a liquid. So let me just get you into this angle so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to add my mix in there. So that was rice milk and a drop of heavy cream. And the heavy cream just adds a little bit of a richness to it. But if you need it lower, I would eliminate the heavy cream in this recipe and just do an equal amount of rice milk. So you can see here that it is pretty dry, but I think that it's going to be the right amount. Let's see. See how it's coming together? So you want to give it a little time before you automatically add more liquid to it. Because if they have too much liquid, they're going to be flatter. Okay. So you can kind of see it's still a little bit sticky. So now I'm going to put my hand in there and I'm going to squeeze it, just to try to get all cohesive. And you can see now that it's a cohesive ball. And somewhere here I have one of my favorite gadgets in the world is a Parmesan cheese or a spice container. It just has wheat starch in it. And that way you can just sprinkle it on your workspace. Okay. And now I've got a ball here, but I'm going to knead it just a little bit. Just so it's all good. Then I'm going to make it round. I'm going to pat it down, and I'm going to cut a biscuit. When you cut a biscuit, you should go straight down. You don't want, if you're using a dull edge, sometimes it doesn't rise as nice because it pushes it down. Oops. We're going to put that right back on top. It pushes down the sides, and then you don't get that nice rise. So now with the leftover, I'm going to form a little biscuit because my daughter is always looking to nibble on something. So that one I'm just going to do like that. Washing my hands. Okay. And we're going to put that on a baking sheet. And if I had remembered to put parchment paper near here, I would put it on parchment paper, but I forgot. So that's going to go in the oven. Alexa, set timer for 10 minutes. I think it's supposed to be.
Second timer, 10 minutes, starting now.
Yeah, let me just double check the timing. So normally it's 15 minutes. My oven runs very, very hot, so I'm going to check on it at 10 minutes because yesterday I burnt the biscuits and we had to remake them. It happens. Okay, let me just get this, clean this up a little bit so there's space. So we have been together so far for about 40 minutes. And we really only started working probably for about a half hour. And we already have stuffing done, cranberry sauce, and biscuits. We are moving along. Okay. So, next up is our entree, which is the portobellos served on cauliflower steak. Cauliflower is probably one of my new most favorite vegetables. I was a vegetarian for many, many years, and portobello mushrooms and eggplant were my go-tos when I was looking for that sort of savory meal that had the flavor and the feel kind of for lack of a better word, for a meat and potatoes kind of meal. But sorry, that's my dogs. They're going to keep going. But cauliflower has really risen lately to one of my favorites. What I love about this cauliflower steak is you can use it for any dish, any chicken dish in particular. So I've done cauliflower steak marsala. I've done cauliflower steak franchise. I've done cauliflower piccata. I have taken the cauliflower cutlets and I've breaded them and fried them and done cauliflower parmesan. I have taken them and fried them and put them on sandwiches with barbecue sauce and all different things. So it's a great vegetable. So to do a cauliflower steak, let me make sure I'm in the exact right spot so you see what I'm doing. Okay. So I trimmed all the greens off, right? And here's the stem. The stem is what's going to hold it together. So I need to cut through the stem. There's going to be parts of this cauliflower that I'm not going to use for this recipe. I'm not throwing it out. I'm not wasting it at all. I'll use it for something else. But for this, I'm probably I'm hoping to get 4 steaks out of it, but we'll see. Okay, let me just position this. This camera, it reminds me of me trying to drive in reverse. Whatever way I move it, it doesn't go the way that I think it should go. Don't ever stand behind me from the car going in reverse. So anyway, so I'm going to cut right here. This is going to be stuff that I'm not going to use because it's not part of the stem, but it's still going to make what I call medallions that I'm going to use for something else later. Or I could use it for cauliflower rice or whatever it is I want. So now I'm at that point where now I see the root, and that's where I want to be. And I want to go about a 1/2 inch. Okay, that one stayed intact. Perfect. I'm going to go another 1/2 inch. Okay. Oh, and I just lost one big piece there, so my 4th one is not going to be as great, but that's okay. So, we got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Those are going to be our steaks. And this stuff, you can take this and bread it and fry it, or even just bread it and have it in your fridge. Take all of these pieces. I would flatten this one a little bit. So you could have these all breaded. I love the KFC breading. Use the same technique and keep them in your fridge, and then just fry them whenever you want them, and you can have sort of that nice, fresh fried cauliflower for a sandwich. It's delicious. Okay, so now I've got my steaks, and I need some baking sheets, and I think I have all my baking sheets in use to hold all my, sorry. I tried to organize by putting everything, each recipe on its own baking sheet, but now I have no baking sheets to bake on. So, all right. So here's my pan. I'm going to be generous with the olive oil. Okay. Put my steak on. Move it around. I'm going to flip it over. And I'm going to do even a little bit more olive oil. And then we want to flavor it. You always want to season everything that you're doing. So we want to put some salt. Hang on. There it is. I had salt somewhere, but I must have used it on something else. So we're going to sprinkle it with a little bit of salt. And we're going to put a little bit of pepper on it. And you can just roast it just like this, but because we're using rosemary with our mushrooms, I'm going to put a little rosemary on this as well. So, and this is going to go in a high oven. And the high oven is about 400 to 450 degrees. And we're going to want that to get nice and brown. And do even a tiny bit more olive oil. Alexa, set the timer for 20 minutes.
Third timer, 20 minutes. Starting now.
I forgot I had biscuits in there. We have to wait a minute. I got ahead of myself. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? You're a quiet group. No questions? Okay. Clean up here. What is everybody's favorite dish for Thanksgiving? Yeah, add to the comments, because if you tell me, I can't hear you. Right? I don't know if everyone's cooking or everyone's drinking. I'm not sure which is happening. I hope you're all drinking. All right. Oh, someone said that their mom makes a low-protein cream spinach. I bet that's delicious. And we are in the middle of testing the ability for people to add recipes. So when that time comes, I hope you'll put that cream spinach recipe up on the site for everyone to enjoy. Oh, someone does the sweet potatoes with marshmallows on top. Those are pretty darn good. We do, in place of that, because the sweet potatoes, by the time you put together the protein and all the meals, it starts to add up quickly. So we were trying to figure out a way to cut it back. And we do roasted butternut squash. And then we do caramelized apples on top. And it's pretty delicious too, if you're looking to cut protein but not cut flavor. Okay. Yeah. I know everyone loves their mashed potatoes. And I think mashed potatoes are probably one of the easiest asks you can do if you're going somewhere for Thanksgiving. You could just ask the host or hostess if they could just swap out milk for 2/3 rice milk and 1/3 heavy cream, or just all rice milk. It will not impact the flavor at all, and that way it's a meal that you don't have to bring with you, and that you can have safely, and everyone will enjoy it. So it's a very, very easy ask, and I think people are happy to help if they know what they can do, and if they know that it's still going to be delicious. So you just have to be comfortable asking. Okay, let me just check on those biscuits. Oh, I'm getting there. I'm not done yet. They need another 2 minutes. And then we'll put our cauliflower steak in, and then we're going to move on to our mushrooms. And they're going to go in a very, very high oven. Okay, that's my timer. Alexa, cancel timer. Nope. Alexa, cancel timer. And I apologize to everyone's timer that I canceled. You might want to reset yours. Okay, let's see. Okay. Alexa, cancel timer. So the biscuits are a little bit pale. I'm going to give them 1 more minute. Mushrooms. And as I said earlier, normally you want these marinating for at least 3 hours to really get the flavor in. They'll still be good, but they won't be as flavorful. And I actually usually do it first thing in the morning and let them sit for 8 hours. You could easily make this meal the day before and then just heat it up in a pan. But if you're doing that, I would double the gravy recipe so that you have a little bit more to work with as it's heating, because you're going to lose some of that gravy as the liquid evaporates on a reheat. Okay. I'm going to just relax and enjoy my drink while those biscuits cook. Who's having a cocktail with me? Or am I drinking on my own? I know Sarah's having one. All right, Les. I knew I could count on you. There we go. So they're still a little bit pale, but as you know, low protein products are often a little bit paler in color. If it bothers you, you can add some baking soda to the mix in place of some of the baking powder, and that will help brown it a little bit more, but it tastes delicious. So our biscuits are done. Our stuffing's done. Our cranberry sauce is done, and we are working on our entree. So I'm taking those cauliflower steaks, and I'm going to put them in the oven. They're going to go for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to flip them over, and they're going to go for about another 20 minutes. And we're going to I'm trying to think if we should do the mushrooms now. They get about 6 minutes, or we should wait. I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on to dessert, and we're going to go back to the mushrooms, just to give them a little bit longer to marinate, because otherwise they're going to be ready before our cauliflower steak. So we'll time it a little bit better by letting them wait. So, next up is no-bake cheesecake bites. Cheesecake has been on my list of things that I wanted to do and make for Molly for years. I played a lot with using just a small amount of cream cheese and then using agar and kudzu and trying to make like a pudding base. And it just never set right and never had the flavor that I wanted. So when Violife came out with their cream cheese, and it was pretty low, I was so excited. And I went out, I bought a gazillion packages of it. This is the Violife cream cheese. I can get it almost everywhere now. When it first came out, I could only get it in a handful of health food stores, but even my Stop and Shop carries it now. So I made this beautiful, beautiful mix, and it tasted delicious even raw going in. And I made a graham cracker crust, and it was creamy and thick. I put it in the oven, and it turned into goo. Like this horrible, opaque, it was, there are no words for it. And when I took it out, I literally sat down and I was like, are you kidding me? So it happens to all of us. And I realized you just can't cook this. So I started looking into no-bake cheesecakes, and that's how I developed this recipe. It is really, really, really tasty. It is something that everyone will love. And it also, it's flexible. So you could, if you have a higher tolerance, you can use regular graham crackers or buy one of those small graham cracker crusts. If your tolerance is high enough that this is way too low for you, you can substitute part of the cream cheese with Violife, part of the Violife with regular cream cheese. You can also, if you don't feel like making crust, you can use this on its own. It would be delicious as a parfait. It would be delicious if you do cinnamon sugar tortilla chips that are baked. There's a recipe on the site. You could do that. And I know I recently posted a link to someone who did sort of like the apple pie filling and used the tortilla chips as a dip for that. So you could have both of those and have a really nice dessert. You can also make like a tiramisu with this. So you could take your low protein, or if you have the tolerance, your regular graham crackers, and dip them in like a cup of espresso with like half a cup of like a coffee liqueur, and just dip them in and put them on a, maybe like an 8x8 glass baking casserole. You would put that on, then you would add about a cup of this cream that we're going to make, and then you'd add another layer, and then more of the cream, and then you'd keep going like that. And you'd let it sit in, I'd say you probably have about 4 layers, and you could let it sit then in your fridge overnight or for 2 days, and it will be delicious. So that's just another possibility. And you could also use it as a filling. There's a recipe on the site for spicy pumpkin cake, and it's a bundt cake, but you could easily do 2 rounds and use this as the filling for that. You could use that same recipe and make little whoopie pies and use this as the filling for that. And my hope is to be able to make a pumpkin roll, like a Swiss roll cake with a pumpkin cake, and then this in the center. I tried it last year with the spice cake recipe, but it cracked an awful lot. So I have been reading up, trying to figure out how to fix that. So I'm hoping to have that up before Thanksgiving, but no promises. It just depends on how the testing goes. All right. So to start with for this, we are going to take, I'm using low protein graham crackers. You can also use really any crispy cracker or crispy cookie that you have. Like if you had gingerbread cookies in your freezer, those would be delicious in this. And really, any kind of crisp cookie. You're just looking for a cookie crust. So you're going to add, it's 200 grams of cookies, or 20 squares of Cook for Love's low protein graham crackers. You're going to make into just crumbs. So if you don't have your food processor out, you can easily just bash them in a Ziploc bag, whatever you want to do. Good job for a kid to do. Not quite yet. Okay. flip over so you can see exactly what they look like. So there's a couple of little chunks in there, but by the time I add the butter and the sugar and process it again, it'll all be crummy. So in here, we're going to add 1/4 cup of brown sugar. We're adding some cinnamon and some ginger just to complement the flavors of the pumpkin. And our melted butter. And we're going to give that a few pulses. A few more, sorry. So now this recipe, you could make a giant cheesecake, or you can do bite-sized ones. I love bite-sized ones. I think everyone, by the time dessert comes, they want a little bit of everything, and this just makes it easier. So I have these little mini pans. I like the cheesecake mini pan because it has the ability, hang on, after it sets, it has a hole down here so you can kind of push up and the cheesecake batter stays in place without getting all smushy. So that's why I like them. If you don't have them and you're using a regular mini muffin pan, then just line it. So that way you don't have to worry about that. So we are going to take a tablespoon and put it into each little well. Oh, I heard someone was wondering where I got my cool apron. Funny you should ask. It's available on PKU. What is it on? How much fee? Where is it on? Sorry, Sarah. Where are they available? shop.pkunews.org. You can have your own cool apron, and you could be one of the cool kids. We could hang out at the next conference, and, you know, it'd be amazing. So anyway, and that money all goes back towards our non-for-profit and helps us put on programs like this. Okay, so that out of the way. Now what you need is either a spoon or this thing, I think it's called a tamper. I don't know why I have it. You definitely don't need to buy it. Really, a spoon or your fingers will work just as well, but, you know, I'm a sucker for a gadget. Let me switch so you can kind of see what I'm doing. All right, so it's in there. You can take your fancy tamper and you can push down. Nope, it doesn't fit that way, this way. Or you could just take a spoon. Same thing. I was a sucker for this one. I'll admit it. And now this should then go in your freezer while we make the filling. I don't want to leave and go downstairs to put it in my freezer downstairs, and I have no room in my one up here. So I'm going to ignore that step. And the only thing it's going to impact is when I put the cream cheese filling in there, it might not be as neat. So if you can, I would take this and put it in the freezer while we finish making the batter. But I'm going to ignore my own directions, which I usually do. Okay, so I'm going to put that to the side. I hear the cauliflower steak sizzling, and I'm wondering, did I put on a timer? I'm hoping I did. Oh, it's actually looking like it's closer to being done than it should be. Let me go look. Take a peek. You guys can see it as I see it. All right. Now, if this is nice and browned, then we're done. Yep, nice and browned. It's nice. It's done on this side. So that went faster than it should have, or faster than I thought it would be. So always check early. Alexa, set timer for 10 minutes.
Second timer, 10 minutes. Starting
I
now.
wonder what that first timer's for. I don't know. All right. Oof. All right, so since that's moving fast, I'm going to reverse. And I'm going to finish our mushrooms. And then we're going to go back to our filling. Sorry, but it just makes more sense. Before I switch over to doing the mushrooms, someone just said, can you make a whole pie? You can make a whole cheesecake with this. You just need a springform pan, and you're just going to, it's probably about, do I have a 9-inch one? 8-inch one. So you would just do, oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong angle as you're watching my hands. So you would just pack down those crumbs in there, and then you would fill it up. Make sure you grease the sides of your springform pan, unless you're using just a regular pie dish, which would be fine too. But if you want it in like an actual cheesecake pan, you would definitely want to push down those breadcrumbs. Not those breadcrumbs, that would be gross. The cookie crumbs, and put it in the freezer for a little bit, and then just fill it up with the pie. So it would make one big cheesecake. Either one would be great. Like I said, I like the little ones because you can control the portion and you can control you have a better sense of how much you ate, because I don't think you could get 30 slices out of that cheesecake pie, but you can get 30 mini cheesecakes. So that's just my 2 cents. But do whatever you want there. It's a great dessert to bring if you're going somewhere. All right. So we have our mushrooms. I need a pan. I'm going to move my biscuits. And our mushrooms are going in. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put them in a skillet. I'm going to put them in an oven-proof skillet because I only have 2 and they should fit. So I am going to, let me just double check this because I haven't made this recipe in a while. Let me find the recipe. I'm pretty sure you put it cap side up, but let me just confirm. That's no baked pumpkin bites. That's apple sage stuffing. Here it is. All right. Carefully move that. Lightly oiled. Turn and roast for 6 minutes. Okay, round side up. So we are going to put them round side up in our pan for 6 minutes, and then we're going to roast them for another 6 minutes. Alexa, timer off. Let's move my oven racks. Oh, who said that? Laura, thank you. Laura just gave me a tip that I could say, Alexa, set 6-minute timer for mushrooms.
Mushrooms timer, 6 minutes.
Didn't know you could do that. So now when it goes off, I won't be like, what is that for? Excellent. Thank you, Laura. All right. So mushrooms are in. They're going to be in for 6 minutes. Then we're going to flip them over, let them roast for another 6 minutes, and then we're going to make the gravy for that. But while that's happening, we can either sit and drink, or we can move on to the cheesecake bites. I'm guessing you probably want to move on. I'm guessing you probably want to move on to the cheesecake bites. Hang on. I need a drink first. All right. Now, this can go away for now, but I do need it again for the mushrooms. Give me a minute so I can move some of these. I don't need the food processor anymore, so I'm going to get that out of the way so everyone can kind of see what I'm doing. Sorry, I'm off screen for a minute while I move stuff. Okay, unplug and get rid of and plug in the food processor. Okay, so what we need to do is whip some cream. Oh, hang on. And this is going to take about 5 minutes. And it's going to take 5 minutes and be very, very noisy, where you can't hear me, and I can probably hear Sarah asking questions, but I can't answer them until it's done. If you need to lower the protein in this recipe, you can easily, or you want to make it dairy-free, so your vegan friends can have it as well. You can use So Delicious Cocoa Whip, and that you would just thaw that, or you can even use Cool Whip. I have no idea what's really in Cool Whip, but you can use that too. So here comes my big mixer. And my whisk attachment is not in there. I'm hoping it's not in the dishwasher from yesterday's class. Oh no, there it is. So, we want nice, stiff peaks on this, because that's really what's going to make the whole mixture very, very light. So, I have my heavy cream, nice and cold. It had to stay in the fridge because if it's warm, it's not going to whip as nice. And I really should have had my bowl in the fridge or freezer as well, but I don't have any room. So, out of luck there. Does anybody have any questions before the noise hits? No? Okay. All right. Getting all that heavy cream in. Since I counted the fee for it, I want to make sure I get every drop. And again, I apologize, it's going to be loud. Definitely the time to drink. I lied when I said I would be able to hear Sarah. Sorry, Sarah, what was the question? If you want this lactose-free, you would use So Delicious Cocoa Whip, and you would use a vegan butter. And the same thing with the graham crackers, you would use a vegan butter in that. And it would be a very easy recipe to do lactose-free. So you can see here, this is still considered very, very soft. It's not even forming any peaks, but you can start to see the ripples, and you know that it's starting to get a little bit thicker. That was Alexa telling me my mushroom timer is done. So you see now how I stopped this, and you can still see Alexa timer off. You can still see kind of the marks there. That's letting me know that it's getting there, but it's still not there. You have to be careful. If you go too far, you're going to end up with butter. Alexa, timer off. See, when I put this down, I want to see whether or not the peak that's there stays or it goes kind of flat. So it needs just another minute. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. So, oops, get that out of the way. So you can see how it's not going to fall off my finger, and it is nice and thick. Okay, I'm going to put this in a bowl, and then it's going to go in the fridge. Switch this back over this way. This is going to stay in the fridge while we finish up the rest of the cheesecake. And while I was mixing, the timer went off. The cauliflower is ready, but the mushrooms need another minute before we can flip them over. And part of that was that the cauliflower went in at 450 and the mushrooms should have gone in at 500. But I let them go in at 450, so they're just going to take another few minutes. It's done. And this is going in the fridge. Okay. All right. Now, still need this. All right. Now, let me clean up a little bit. And in the time when I'm cleaning, I'm hoping the mushrooms are ready to flip over before we start something else. That. All right. And nobody has any questions? No? Okay. Nope, I'm here. Okay. Someone just asked what the top 3 appliances were that I would want in my kitchen. I do have a whole list that Sarah's going to post in the comments, but if I had to pick 3, well, let me show you the cauliflower, and because it's starting to burn my hand. So that's the cauliflower steaks done. And what we're going to just do to make them look even a little bit prettier is we're going to just sprinkle them with some fresh parsley. And that is going to be what we serve our mushrooms on top of. Okay. I don't know if you can see it really. At the right angle? Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. So my top 3 appliances. I could not live. That's being very, very dramatic. I I would have a tough time without my KitchenAid mixer. I find that I use it a couple of times a week. And my new favorite gadget, and it's thanks to you guys because I saw all the hype and I was like, no, I'm not getting one. I was trying to show restraint, is the air fryer. I think that it's fantastic just for heating up food. Excuse me, it heats up food much nicer and much quicker. So I love my air fryer. Next gadget. Let me think about what my next one would be. I like a food processor. I could live without one because I'm weird and I really like to dice vegetables. I find it very, very calming. I know Sarah's laughing in my ear. Cookie scoops of all sizes. I know that's a stupid little one, but they're fantastic just for having even measurements. If you don't have to weigh every single thing, but you can get a rough, approximately the same amount when you're making cupcakes and cookies. And we're going to be using it today for our cheesecake. Those are a big one. I'm trying to think of what other gadgets. Those would be, if I had to pick three, that's what they would be. Oh, and the other thing, if your bread is not working great, if it's not giving the rise and you're using Cook for Love's recipe, a proofer. I know it sounds stupid, but my God, it's a game changer. In my old house, I had a bottom drawer, like a heating drawer, and it was perfect. So my bread rose perfectly every single time. When we moved here, I could not find a spot in my kitchen that really made my bread spring up the way that it needed to. And I knew a lot of people were having the same issue. So I bought one of those proofers. I think it's Broad and something. It's on that list that Sarah posted. It creates the perfect atmosphere because for something to proof, it needs both the heat and it also needs humidity, so it needs the moisture. And a lot of times if your kitchen is really, really hot, it could also be really, really dry, and it doesn't allow for that nice rise. So if you're having problems with your yeasted products rising, invest in proofer. It is a game changer. Deep fryer is great more if you're have a young kid with PKU. I think as an adult, you're probably more cautious about calories and things like that. But if you have a young one with PKU, that's fantastic to have. Yeah, those would be my gadgets that I would recommend. Okay, so I'm going to go flip my mushrooms. Oops. So because I did the mushrooms, let me see how I can show you. Hang on, I have to move my drink. Definitely don't want that spilling. Let me move the food processor. And I can switch angles so you can see exactly what I'm looking at. Okay. So the mushroom is looking kind of wrinkly, which is what we want. And if you put it capside up, if you put it like this, capside down, would that be? Would that be capside up? If you put it with the round side on top, and then when you flip it over, this is even if you're grilling a mushroom, all the moisture is going to gather really nicely in here, and that's going to be great for our gravy. So always go gill side down first, and then flip over for mushrooms. Alexa, set mushroom timer for 7 minutes. 7 minutes.
Mushroom timer, 7 minutes.
Okay.
Starting now.
Somebody was asking if I can use leftover cauliflower yesterday when we had the kids class. Sorry, I'm on the wrong angle. Yesterday when we had the kids class, we made vegetable patties. I call them the jerkies because we cut them out like turkeys. And I think I'm much more clever than I actually am because it really is a stupid name. But anyway, you could use the cauliflower in that. You absolutely could. That cauliflower we'll just make roasted cauliflower one night with whatever was left over, or, it definitely won't go to waste anyway. All right, so we are back on our cheesecake. Again, Violife, great product for non-baking use. If you cannot find it, Trader Joe's has vegan cream cheese that my daughter claims tastes even better. But it does have, the first 3 or 4 ingredients are the same, and then it has chickpea protein. So I'm not quite sure of the exact protein content of that one. And So Delicious has one now too. And Tofutti has one. So you can certainly use any of those, but you just have to adjust the fee. This is, as far as I know, this is the lowest one. Okay, someone's asking about the air fryer and using that. You know what? I'm going to hold off on that question just because I'm going to focus on what I'm doing here. And then as soon as we have a break, I will answer that. Because otherwise I know I'm going to mess something up because I have the mushrooms going too. Okay, so what we have to do here is the cream cheese goes in and we want to whip it up so it gets a little bit light and it gets soft. So when we add the other ingredients in here, it blends nicely. So I'm going to flip back over so you have this angle. And now we're going to just scrape that bowl down. And in it is going to go, oh, you know what I forgot to do? I knew I would forget something. Okay, the other thing we have to do is, move this out of the way, is we have to dissolve our instant pudding. So if we put it in right here, we might get little clumps. So I like to dissolve it just in a 1/4 cup of whatever your favorite non-dairy milk is. I use rice milk. Not because I love the taste of it the most on its own, but because it's super neutral in flavor and it's one of the lower protein ones. So I'm just going to, it's a 1/4 cup and I'm going to add this to it. This is going to be super thick and gross looking. Don't worry about it. Mixer. I got this in a kit at Christmas, and I thought it was the stupidest thing in the world, but it's actually really handy. Okay, we're just going to mix that. And you can see it's going to be super, super thick. But this is going to add a little bit of firming texture to this. And if you wanted your cheesecake more firm, you could add 2 packets and it wouldn't impact it. I have the cheesecake flavor, again, just to sort of boost the cheesiness, or the cream cheesiness of it. If you don't have that and you have vanilla, that will also work fine. Okay, that's all that is. We'll let that sit for a minute. I'll bring this back over. All right. And in here, we're going to add our pumpkin. We're going to add our powdered sugar. Our brown sugar. Vanilla. Loads of cinnamon. Ginger. Nutmeg and cloves. If you have pumpkin spice, you can just add that instead of all of those. Okay. So if you look here, you see all these like lumpy, bumpy bits of cream cheese, and that's what we don't want. We want to keep going till it is all homogeneous and there are no lumps in there. Okay, scrape down the bowl and add the pudding mix. And I bet our mushrooms are almost done. Okay.
mushroom timer is done.
Okay, I'm going to go take a look at those mushrooms. I'm coming, Alexa.
Your mushroom.
Alexa, timer off. Okay, so that looks like it's pretty well blended. And my mushrooms are done, so if you're cooking along with me, yours are probably done too. Back on. Okay. Let me take this out and move this out of the way. So here we have our pudding, or cheesecake rather, and we need to fold in now our whipped cream. And folding, contrary to Schitt's Creek, is a true thing that you do. And what it means is you literally, I'm going to add this in, and you just don't want to deflate all of that air that you whipped into that cream, because that's what's going to make this nice and light. Okay. So to fold, you go down, you lift up, and you pull over. Down, up. So you're kind of carefully, if I just went in and kind of did this, I would deflate all of that air, and it would not be nearly as light. And we have made these, I only came up with this recipe a couple of weeks ago. And I've made them a few times to get them up on the site and make sure it was right. And everyone who taste tested absolutely loved it. So this is definitely a dessert everyone will enjoy at Thanksgiving. And like I said, I think it would be an amazing filling on a pumpkin roll if I can figure out how to do that. Okay. I still have some streaks in there, so I'm going to go a few more times. It's always that balance between having streaks and not deflating too much. Okay. And that is the pumpkin cheesecake filling done. So we're going to move this, and we're going to go back to our cookie tin, cheesecake tin. Okay. And I'm using my famous cookie scoop. So we're going to put 60 grams in. I'm not going to weigh it just because we are pressed for time. So it's going to be a big giant scoop in there. And we're going to continue filling them. And like I said, this will make 30. And the exact portions are written out on the recipe. I believe it is 60 of the filling and 10 of the cookie crumb. But someone who's looking at it will know for sure. Okay. Now you just kind of want to smooth that out with a knife because the spoon's not working. Hang on. Okay. It's going to work. So you just kind of want to smooth the top as best you can. And then you want it to set in your fridge for minimum 2 hours, at least 4, ideally 8. And it will get a little bit firmer as it sits. And then once it has sat for those few hours, so let it sit till overnight, and then in the morning, you can put it in the freezer. And then you can just defrost it on Thanksgiving morning, put it in your fridge, and it'll be ready for dessert. But you can't put it in the freezer right now until it sets. So there we go. That goes in to the fridge. I'm trying to find a spot in the fridge, which is packed. There we go. All right. Now, you guys are going to continue with that. I'm going to fill up the rest of mine later. All right. So, can everyone still see me, or have I put up too much? Right now, in front of me is the KitchenAid mixer, and then behind that is the food processor, and they're all shoved, hopefully out of view for you guys, but completely in my way. All right. So now, our mushrooms. This over here. So here they are. So they look kind of dry. There's not much liquid there. But now you see all this, what some people would consider burn. This is flavor. If I can just teach you one thing, is that this caramelization is where all of your flavor is whenever you're doing anything. And you want that flavor in your sauce. So how you get it in your sauce is we're going to add a liquid to it. And in this case, we're going to add some sherry. And as we add the sherry, we're going to kind of scrape it. So all these brown bits go back into the sauce. It's called frond that's there, and we're deglazing the pan. So there's your fancy term for you today. So I'm going to put this by the stove, and then I'm going to let the mushrooms cool a little bit, and then I'm going to slice them. So I'm going to go this stove, and I'm going to switch angles in a second so you can see what I'm doing. I need to clean up a little over here so everything's in the right spot. All right. And let's switch camera angles. So now we're over by the stove, and here is our pan. I'm going to turn it on. Okay. I'm adding sherry to the skillet. Okay. Remember to get more sherry. And what I want to do is really scrape. See how those brown bits are coming up? I can't touch this pan because it was in the oven and it's hot. So let me get the oven mitt on. Okay. So what I'm trying to do, it also makes cleanup easier. Get these brown bits all cleaned up. I want to cook this until the sherry is reduced in half. Okay. Turn it down a little bit. Again, I want as much of those brown bits as I can get in there. Okay. So you see how the pan doesn't have anything stuck to it anymore? That's what you want. All those bits are in this, what's going to be in the gravy. One more minute, and then we're going to add some vegetable broth to there. And let it simmer. Okay. So again, if you're going to be heating this up on Thanksgiving, I would increase the amount. Oh, I touched the pan of gravy. To get nice and hot. Now, the recipe calls for cornstarch. Cornstarch is used to thicken. One of my other favorite thickeners is Bisto. This is super low in Phe and in protein, but it adds tremendous flavor. It comes in chicken and beef flavors as well as vegetable. They're vegetarian, so there's no meat product in it, and it adds a terrific, terrific flavor and thickens everything. So you can either dissolve a teaspoon of cornstarch into a little bit of vegetable broth and make what's called a slurry, because if you add the cornstarch right into this hot liquid, it's just going to clump. But if you mix it up into something cold and then put it in, it will thicken nicely. So we are going to do, I'm not sure, I think it's going to be probably about a teaspoon. Now, this dough is salty, so you just have to mind how much salt you add to it. And taste it before you add too much. And there's two types of Bisto. There's granules in different flavors, and then there's original Bisto, which is like a cornstarch where you have to make a slurry. So you'd have to dissolve it into something cold and then add it to your hot liquids. It's going to need a little bit more. And I will tell you the secret that all chefs do in the restaurants. Anytime they make any kind of sauce, what they do at the end is they always add a pat of butter, because fat is flavor. And there is nothing more flavorful than butter, in my opinion. And if you use margarine instead because you're of the Phe, I'm telling you, butter is worth it for the Phe. If you have other health reasons and there's other reasons why you can't use it, then okay. But it's worth the 6 milligrams. There's nothing like the flavor. So, we're going to add our pat of butter, and we're going to add some fresh parsley, and a little bit of pepper, and turn that off. Now we're going to go back to our mushrooms. So I'm going to switch angles. All right. I like to cut the mushroom on a bias, which just means on an angle. It just is a prettier presentation. So I start here, and I'm going to go across that way. That's going to go right back into the gravy. Okay. And now what we're going to do is plate that. Hang on, let's go get a plate. So it would be the cauliflower steak. Personally, I would have a bed of mashed potatoes here. Cauliflower steak would go on top. And mushroom and some gravy. I need a spoon. Hang on. And what I like even more is first a plate of greens. So some Swiss chard maybe, sauteed. Then potatoes on top of that. Then the cauliflower steak. And then the mushrooms go on top of that. And then a scoop of gravy over the whole thing. And, hang on, it's beautiful. Very, very nice. Imagine the mashed potatoes under it and the greens under that. And not only is it beautiful, it tastes delicious. Now, I know there were some questions. that we didn't get to. So one of them was, what was the question? Someone was asking if you can use an air fryer versus a deep fryer for some recipes. I think it depends on what recipe you're talking about. For anything that has a wet batter, the air fryer doesn't work that well. I love it more, I'll be honest, if I'm making like KFC or something like that, I tend to deep fry it and then I freeze it. And then when I'm reheating it, I do it in the air fryer. I have never tried to air fry it, but I do believe people on the site have, and they've been happy with the results. I imagine you'd have to spray it with a good bit of olive oil, though, to get that nice crispness. But if there's a specific recipe, I could probably answer it better. Okay. Someone was asking about vitamin D deficiency and what recipes we could use to boost it. Honestly, that's a little bit out of my my wheelhouse. I know mushrooms are one source, but I'm not sure about much else, but I could probably do a quick check online and answer that question better tomorrow. But honestly, I'm not sure. So this is the cauliflower steak with the mushroom and the gravy. It is so ridiculously delicious. I make this at Thanksgiving, and we have a good few vegetarians and various dietary restrictions that come to our house. And we always have to tell people, don't touch that until all the vegetarians eat, because everyone will go for this. It's completely delicious. If you have to bring a dish to someone's house, this is a great one to bring. But bring enough for everyone, because everyone's going to want to have some. I'm going to show you what the cheesecake looks like, because I made some yesterday, and it will have set. So these are the cheesecake bites. So good. I'm mixing my foods, but it's all delicious, so I don't care. It's so good. Oh, my mouth is so happy right now. All right, so we made biscuits, cauliflower steak with roasted portobellos and a gravy. If you're like, Brenda, are you kidding me? I am not making that for myself. I don't have the time. Do just the cauliflower steak and do a quick visit. On the site is a recipe for a quick gravy, which is just vegetable broth, butter, parsley, and Bisto. You could do that and you'll be happy. But this just is really, really like a restaurant-worthy, little bit of a swoony deliciousness that I highly recommend you try. And again, I don't know if you guys were commenting because I can't see. I'm very curious as to how many people were cooking with us versus just watching, because that will influence how we do videos moving forward and how we do these classes. Because if you're with us and you're cooking, we know we have to slow down. But if you're just watching so you can do it later and just have the visual, then we know we should speed up, because you guys probably don't want to watch a 2-hour video. Any other questions? Okay. I'm going to switch angles so you can see as our cranberry sauce cooled down, it got thicker. And this will keep in the fridge in a mason jar. And I promise you, none of it will go to waste. It's delicious. I will do my best to get I shoved too much of that in my mouth. I will do my best to get the galette recipe up on the site before Thanksgiving. And I will do my best to try the pumpkin Swiss roll. But as I said, I've tried that a few times and I can't quite get it to not crack. So I'm hoping I can figure that out. Anything else? Well, for those of you who are just watching, you shouldn't be lazy. You should have been cooking with us, because this is delicious. Anyway, now I'm just being mean. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I hope that this is of help to you. Let us know what you like and don't like. so that we can continue to provide programs and things that are useful to you. There's a survey on the screen that I would appreciate it if you would answer. For those of you who cooked with us, I would love if you took pictures of what you made and posted on Facebook. I think the more people see someone having success with a recipe, the greater the chances that they'll try it. Otherwise, we all kind of get a little skittish because we've put a lot of time and effort into things that with less than optimal results. So I think the more people that try things and promote it, the more people will try different things. And remember, Cook for Love is part of PKU News. We are a non-for-profit. We really rely on your support, and anything that you can give to help us out lets us continue programs like this. And we are actually a pretty cool group of people who have lots of good ideas, and we just need the funding and the staff to make them happen. So if you can help us out, we'd really appreciate it. But have a great Thanksgiving, and any other questions before I say goodnight? Okay. Cheers, everyone. I'll give them another second. And then we'll... Good night, everyone.